Well, my name is, most people can't pronounce it correctly, Eve Gagnon. I'm actually French Canadian. So my family's originally from the Montreal area, which is in Quebec in Canada. Right now, I live in Newfoundland. For those who aren't really sure where that is, it's the as far east as you can get in North America. So it's a little island, and yeah, it's quaint, it's nice, it's small. It's not really a bodybuilding mecca, but I make it work. And yeah, I've I guess been in the bodybuilding scene for about 7 years now.
Gotcha. And do you find it kind of like an advantage almost to be kind of away from the bodybuilding meccas a little bit, kind of put yourself in your own zone a little bit?
I tend to stay in my own zone anyways, even especially when I'm at the gym training. I tend to tell people like I look a lot meaner than I actually am because I'm just so focused when I train. I don't talk to people. I just put my headphones in and head down and get it done. So I'm not really the person that's going to go to the gym and socialize and talk to everybody and take 5 hours to get a workout in. So in that aspect, I think even if I was in a big like mecca gym, I would probably still do the same thing. Like I just spent almost full month in the States, down in Florida, training at Revive with my coach, and my 40 and in Texas as well. And it was the same thing. Like I'd go in and as much as I was a little bit starstruck, seeing some of the people that were down there, I still would just go in and get my training done and go home. So I don't think me being in a larger mecca would really change that aspect about myself.
So how did you actually get into the world of fitness, and then how did that lead to bodybuilding?
I've always been into fitness. When I was younger, I was on a rowing crew or I played kickboxing, and I was one of those avid runners that would run 10 kilometers a day. So I was always into fitness. In terms of getting into the bodybuilding aspect of it, I guess it was a bucket list thing. In 2015, I told myself, I kind of put my foot down and said, I just want to try it. I just want to see. So I did my first natural competition with my own guidance, what I thought was a prep and what I thought my knowledge was of prepping and bodybuilding. And I stepped on stage in the figure category and I got dead last and I fell in love with it. So I really I fell in love with the day of like right the you're on stage, the lights, the walkout, like how you feel. Like that's what I fell in love with at that point. It sucks getting last place, but I still enjoyed absolutely every aspect of it. So from there I got a coach and I kept going and I kept progressing and yeah, and haven't really turned back since.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break here just for a second. Let me tell you about Smoking Gun Coffee. They're a veteran-owned coffee company that strives to produce a quality coffee at an affordable price. They only buy coffee from small coffee farmers around the world with a cup score of at least 85. Each batch is roasted to order for maximum freshness. They also donate a large portion of their proceeds to organizations that help local communities, veterans, first responders, or you can donate to the foundation of your choice at the checkout by going to www.smokingguncoffee.com. That's SMOKIN Gun Coffee. When it comes to science-backed supplements that taste great, 2NS is your one-stop shop. They truly maximize quality by making their own supplements in-house. With over a combined 90 years of experience, 2NS's team of industry experts has a commitment to research, quality, development, and innovation. The body is sacred, so give it the best. Check out all 2NS has to offer at secondnaturesupplements.com. That's 2ndnaturesupplements.com. Did you see yourself, going through the journey? Did you see yourself that first prep? When I say that journey, was it in the moment? Was it something where you're like, oh, this is going to be something I'll enjoy? Or was it like, oh, wow, this is terrible. I regret doing this. And then once you stepped on the stage, did it click in? Or was it, did you have any vision of maybe this is for me?
It definitely wasn't. I definitely didn't have any negative. That first prep was definitely an easy prep because it wasn't, in my eyes, a real prep. So there was no extreme being tired because obviously I wasn't doing the nutrition right, and I was training with how I thought I should be training. But I don't think at any point it was, oh, I don't think this is for me, because I've always been a healthy eater. I've always trained in a gym, and it was almost like this is just going to make me a little bit better. So, I, yeah, I think it's a path that once I found, I just stayed on it.
Gotcha. And what really introduced you to bodybuilding? Because even in the fitness world, bodybuilding is still even more kind of a niche. You know, it's even more of
Yeah.
a smaller percentage of people doing it.
Well, when I was in my early 20s, I worked at one of the local gyms here. And where it is such a small community, bodybuilding is very niche. The bodybuilders tend to stand out, right? So everybody knows, oh, you're a bodybuilder, you must know this person. Like we all know each other. So back then, when I was working in the gym, I got to know those who were bodybuilding in the community and just kind of started to look up to them. Um, and just a little bit in awe of like what they did. And I think that's kind of where it first clicked. And so this was when I was 21, and my first competition was when I was 29. So, I mean, it took me a little bit to get to it, but I also had a child in between. So,
Gotcha. And kind of being amongst a community of people who, you know, being in a gym community for one is definitely like we're talking about in fitness. There's not too many people doing it, you know, and then in
yeah.
bodybuilding, it's even a smaller percentage of people doing it. But outside of that community, bodybuilding definitely has like a lot of stereotypes about it. Has a lot of, you know, negative publicity, a lot of things like that. Did you
Yeah.
have any people in your life who were like, you know, maybe don't go down this route?
100% family, unfortunately, but they're slowly coming around. I do have a great support system. Um, my son supports absolutely everything I do. His father supports absolutely everything I do. I've got a lot of friends and close partners that they're there if I ever need anything. Unfortunately, there's always going to be people who kind of look at you and say, "Well, you're crazy," or "That's not healthy what you're doing," or like, why do you like, how do you do that every day? I don't understand. But when I look at it, those are the same people that are going to eat takeout every day. Those are the same people that are not going to go to the gym and better. To me, it's to better themselves or to be healthier. They don't. So they're never going to understand the lifestyle that we live because they don't live it themselves.
Yeah, it is interesting, like how you have people who are like it's not healthy or whatever. You know, maybe there's a small percentage of bodybuilding that takes away from your health. Um, but like you
Well,
said,
don't get me
comparing
wrong. It's a very extreme sport. Like what we
certainly,
do, to the extent, especially when it comes to like the last couple of weeks, it's very extreme. It's not something that's maintainable, right? So that's why after a competition, you slowly rebound back and you do a post-show plan, and you gradually, get away from that extreme. It's definitely not something that someone should maintain. So to that extent, it's a little bit, extreme and not healthy, right?
yeah,
So, but it's not like I am sitting at 5% body fat 365 days a year either.
yeah. But even if you were, you know, for somebody that is doing nothing physically and that
Yeah.
is eating, like you said, you know, fast food every night, who are they to say that something is unhealthy whenever, like, you know, even if you are sitting at 5% body fat, is that worse than what they're doing? Is that more unhealthy? Because at least at the end of the day, you know, you have the skills and the knowledge of, okay, this is how you know, I know how to do these things and we are
Yeah.
doing these things. Like, you know, we know how to eat and what to eat. We know the benefits of our macronutrients and our
Yeah.
micronutrients. We know how to move our bodies and we know how to develop muscle. And even though bodybuilding is certainly, you know, you're not doing it for the long term benefits of muscle development and strength development and bone density, like all those things are still, you know, there's still side effects. There's still positive
Yeah.
side effects of being in the sport and be, you know, just living a physical lifestyle. So it is definitely a bizarre idea when people, whether it's in, you know, in health or in anything, in any unique path that people take, you know, it's like, you know, don't try to even understand or try to judge me when you you really don't have any knowledge base to really even judge from.
Yeah. I feel like, unfortunately, in our society in general, regardless of what niche it is, people are just going to judge because they don't understand, or it's just not on their same wavelength. They'll judge everything regardless of if it's what you eat, what you wear, what you look like, your weight, way too much, way too little. There's always someone judging.
Right. So when you first got into it, you mentioned you kind of did this stuff yourself in that first prep and getting ready for that first show. It was on kind of on you, but like, where did you just kind of use this stuff that you've gained over the years? Did you kind of use people around you a little bit for guidance, or like, did you read any books? Did you do any kind of, digging on the internet, anything like that, to where it's like,
I think I did all the Googling. I did do again when I worked at the gyms when I was in my early 20s. I did do the nutrition and the personal training courses and those little things that you had to do. And there was a couple people in the community that I kind of reached out to and was, kind of asked like, what should I do on the last week? Like, just because I had no idea, in my mind, I was like, I'm just going to cut out all my fats and just not eat anything fat. But I was still eating, like all the carbs, and I had no idea. But the Googling did not help. So,
yeah, it's very interesting. I think we've come a long way. Certainly, there's still like bad information out there and bad resources you can look at, but I think we have come a long way in fitness and in different niches of fitness to where there's really some pretty solid information, pretty solid, whether it's through like big organizations or just people who have been doing it now for a long enough amount of time, who also are maybe they might have some type of educational background in it as well. And you can
yeah,
look up social media accounts, and you can really, getting to the right ones maybe sometimes tricky, but you can really learn a lot when it comes to diet, nutrition, and when it comes to moving your body and different exercises and why they're beneficial for this, that, and the other. It's so cool to have that access for a lot of people kind of in the palm of your hand.
yeah,
Whether you're using it for that reason or not is kind of is another question, but like just having that access to free education, and a lot of times, well, I don't know about a lot of times, but in some cases, let's just say, good information, and it's just right there. It's so accessible. Pretty much you can learn almost anything you want nowadays on just using your phone.
yeah. Instagram is a wonderful thing. Well, I think the one thing that people need to kind of grasp, though, unfortunately, is that everybody's body is different and everybody needs something different. And I learned that throughout the years with the different coaches that I've had, because every coach that I've had has prepped me completely differently. Um, some things were negative, some things were positive, but it just allowed me to learn more about my body and how it responds to different food intakes, different methods of training, and what works best for me. So I feel like you always see these social media influencers that are posting, this is what I eat in the run of a day. So just because this person eats this, this, and this doesn't mean that if you eat this, this, and this, that you're going to look the same way, because absolutely everybody is different. So I think a lot of people unfortunately don't take that into consideration when they look through everybody's social media accounts and look at how they're training and what they're eating.
Yeah. And even you just saying that on this podcast, this isn't the biggest podcast in the world, but you saying that could be somebody's first time hearing that. That could be
Yeah.
somebody's introduction into like that idea of everybody's different, everybody responds differently. And even me who going into college, I wasn't as like educated as I was getting out of it in the world of exercise science and things like that. But I did have an interest in it. I cared about nutrition and I cared about, physical activity and things like that. But even getting into college, it was definitely like, um, I think I had a little bit of idea, but I would still, want to know what's the best workout program out there. What's
Yeah.
the best, bodybuilding.com, Arnold Schwarzenegger's workout. Like, there's always that kind of that hook of thinking, if they did it like this, then that's how
Yeah.
everybody should do it. And I think
Yeah.
we're kind of getting away from that more. I think back in the day that was certainly an even bigger idea, because there wasn't as much A, scientific information, and B, social media reach. It was just kind of
Yeah.
like, okay, this guy's big. What is he doing? Let me go do that.
But the thing that people don't realize is this guy's big and he's doing these, little tricks and movements and stuff, but that's not how he got big. Right. So you see these, these young kids, and I mean, I'm not old, but I look at these, kids that are starting to work out, say like 17, 18 years old, and they're doing all these little fancy exercises that they see the big boys doing because they think that that's how they're going to get big. But the big boys didn't get big doing those little fancy exercises. They got big doing the basic, huge, heavy compounds. Right. So it's a little bit deceiving when you look at social media in that aspect. Right.
Yeah, for sure. There's some pros and some cons to it. I think going into it with the right mindset, going into it with kind of a little bit of a, I don't want to say like skepticism, but just like a willingness to not necessarily fall into or believe every single thing you see on the internet,
Yeah. Just
whether
be
it's,
flexible.
yeah, have a flexible mind, just
Yeah.
understanding like what you're seeing, especially for influencers who aren't necessarily like showing you scientific data and things like that, like that's their life, that's what they are doing on a daily basis like we're talking about. But B, it's like, it is just a small snapshot of
Yeah,
what
it's a
could
guideline.
work.
So like I
Yeah.
think people sometimes take it a little bit too seriously. Like I have to do exactly what this person does.
Yeah.
So
So when you first got into really into bodybuilding, and that could really even be a span of months or years getting into the sport, what do you feel like was one of your biggest struggles?
um I think going into it at first, to be quite honest, was nutrition. I never had a problem going to the gym and training and pushing myself hard because I'm just one of those people that I always want to be better. So I'll always push for heavier weight. I'll always, push to work out harder the next time. Nutrition was probably the hardest thing for me, just because, unfortunately in my, teens, there were a couple instances of, eating disorders, and I had to kind of get my mind away from that. I also see a lot of people who get into the sport of bodybuilding and then they get out right away, and all they do is unfortunately bash it because now they have an eating disorder. Um, what bodybuilding has taught me is to appreciate food for how it fuels me. So I don't look at food as anything negative now in my life. Food is what's going to help me get through my workouts. It's 100% positive in my life right now. So if anything, it turned my struggle into something that, benefits me.
Yeah, and I think even just the term disorder, it's almost a tricky term because you could look at the way that most people eat as an eating disorder.
Oh,
Like,
100%.
yeah, it's funky because like we have this, whether you're in bodybuilding or whether you're in fitness even, or whether you're just out here, like most people are, and they're just eating for pleasure and getting as full as possible and just eating whatever they want. Like both of those are serving, food is serving you, like you're utilizing food, and it's almost like it's part of, or maybe the whole part of, like an addiction in some way.
Yeah.
The way a bodybuilder uses the way that a bodybuilder uses food is as fuel.
Yeah.
That's their method of using food. The way that another person might use food, not in fitness or not in the sport of bodybuilding, is it's more of like a pleasure. It's more of like a therapy. It's more of like, a distraction or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think that to use the word even eating disorder for either side is almost sometimes unfair, because it's like disorder really is just like thinking about doing something the way that most people aren't doing it. So
Yeah.
it's almost like a really tough idea to say that someone has an eating disorder. Now, obviously, there's certainly some things out there that are very bad for people's health, and starts with sometimes, at least I guess, like the mental side of things. But even just like even that, like if that became the norm, like there would be still another eating disorder. Like there's always like a weird way to do things, I think. And being in such a small fraction of the population, you're most likely going to be labeled as like the weird way to do it.
Ready to take your supplements to the next level? 2NS is here to help. 2NS strives to help you attain the highest degree of health and performance. Combining cutting-edge science and the best from nature, 2NS gives fitness enthusiasts and athletes the fuel they need. Check them out at secondnaturesupplements.com. That's 2ndnaturesupplements.com.
This podcast is sponsored by Smoking Gun Coffee, a veteran-owned coffee company that strives to give back to those in need. Don't forget to use code TWR10 for a 10% discount at checkout.
Yeah. I do have a couple of nutrition and personal training clients, and I try, especially the women, I try to teach them that, not to be afraid to eat. Don't be afraid to eat the carb. The carb is not bad for you. And with, at this point, full success, like I up these girls' calories and up the amount of carbohydrates that they're eating. And here, lo and behold, they're losing weight and they're awestruck because, they've been in a calorie deficit for so long because they think that, oh, I can't eat this and I can't eat that. To me, that's, on the borderline of disorder, the restriction of, oh, I can't touch that, because then it snowballs and it turns into binging realistically.
Yeah. Yeah, I think food's such a tricky one, and it's bizarre that it is, even throwing out because I think I either heard this somewhere or learned it in school somewhere, but like the different kind of like binge eating, I don't know, I'm struggling with this. What are the common bulimia and anorexia, like those things,
anorexia, yeah,
those things aren't like new to our society, to our culture. So it's weird to think like, why does our brain sometimes have trouble with this thing that is so important to life? It's just weird that we would, and it's not even in a small percentage of people a lot of times that have like some type of, struggle with food or with eating or with whatever kind of combination of both. Like it's so strange that our brain would that would happen with something that we have to do.
I feel like, unfortunately, even though social media has fantastic benefits, as we discussed, like, learning new training programs and kind of like seeing what everybody else's does and learning from them, unfortunately, social media has a lot of negative. I work, with kids, and I have a kid, and it's scary to think what these kids are looking at and looking up to. So they're looking up to something that's completely unrealistic. And unfortunately, that's what leads to these actions and these thoughts on food.
Yeah. And it's very interesting, like the photoshopping and the editing and things like that, kind of how that has, it's such an unnatural thing, but how like the human mind, like when the human mind sees that, it's just like it amplifies what we think of as beauty. It's weird too that kind of, once again, like it's such an unnatural thing to see something like that. It would almost, to me, make more sense that we would see some kind of like Photoshop or something like that as weird, even if we didn't know why it was weird, just to be like, oh, that's kind of like a weird thing to see, instead of like craving that.
Yeah. The brain is strange sometimes.
For sure. It does a lot of weird things. Whenever you kind of got deeper into bodybuilding though, did you ever question, did it ever come up for you like, hey, is this the path for me? Is this something that I actually want to do?
No. I always wanted to do it. Unfortunately, I did have a moment in time where I was told, by the person I was with, like, I don't want you to do this anymore. Like, I'm done. I'm not supporting you. At that moment in time, I took a year off thinking I was done. And I was unhappy the whole year. And that year actually, made me realize, this is what I want to keep doing. Like, I love this. This is a part of who I am now. I don't want to stop doing this. So, I started back up again. And ever since then, I haven't really looked back either.
It's so strange to find like a passion in something that is like a sport or, bodybuilding or anything that is like new, like whether it's a new idea or new technology. It's so strange to me that we find like a passion in that, because it's like, well, if bodybuilding wasn't around, what would replace that passion? Somebody that's so either really passionate about something or has like a super amazing gift at something, like what would that person be doing if bodybuilding were anything? Or like, what would Michael Jordan be, or like what would they become if basketball wasn't a thing? Like,
not a golfer.
Not a baseball player. I don't think that's either.
No, no.
But
Yeah,
do
go
you ever
ahead.
think about that?
Like what I would do if there was no bodybuilding?
Yeah, like where that passion maybe would go, or like what, um, where would that energy transfer be, I guess.
I'm a very regimented person. Like I think that's why I strive so much in bodybuilding. Like when it comes to food, when it comes to training, everything is very, set and, organized. So I would, for me, I guess I would have to find something that would be as regimented. I'm not sure
Yeah.
what that would be.
Yeah, it's crazy to think like not just like what we have, but also like what it did exist, what we kind of don't do anymore, whether it be sports or kind of whatever kind of events or technology, as well as like what in the future is going to be like the thing that we do and occupy ourselves with and put our time and our skills into. It's crazy with the human mind and what the human spirit, like what it'll cling to feel like a sense of accomplishment, I guess.
Yeah.
Once you kind of got into bodybuilding and you started seeing success in the sport, though, what did you kind of feel like? Okay, I'm having a little traction in the sport. I'm gaining a little bit of not necessarily recognition, but I'm gaining kind of like a little bit of momentum. What did you feel like, okay, this is something that is important to the sport and it's something that I need to get a little bit better in, whether it's your physique, something about it, whether it's posing, whether it's, eating or sleep? Like, did you feel like you had to kind of do that to kind of push yourself over that hump to maybe even get to that like pro level?
I'm going to put posing right at the top because before doing North Americans last year, which is where I got my pro status, I never really focused on posing. It was one of those things that I always left to last minute. And once I put the emphasis on posing, got a separate posing coach. I've had two different posing coaches at this point. Um, is when I really grasped the importance of that. Stage presence was always a thing, but especially when I switched from figure to women's physique, posing is huge, and how you present yourself on stage. You can have the best physique up there. You can be as conditioned and as bigger than everybody else. But if you can't pose and you can't show it off, the judges are not going to reward you for it. So to me, posing was something that it didn't matter how hard I had to work at it. I knew I had to be better.
Yeah.
And I'm still at that point because I will get a posing coach for every show that I do. I will pose minimum twice a week and just, to keep it fresh in my head. I do think it's one of the most important things that people they kind of forget about when it comes to, bodybuilding as a sport. They'll go to the gym, they'll eat the food, they'll say, yeah, I'm going to step on stage, but they have no idea what they're doing when they get on stage.
Yeah.
So I
It's
think that kind of ruins it.
to me, it seems like it's such a weird thing to be like, you have this physique, you have this body, but then you also have to learn how to like show it off, like you're saying, how
Yeah,
to utilize it, how to not just to do it in a mirror either, because then you have to learn like what somebody else is seeing when you're doing certain
exactly.
motions. And I think that would be kind of, very, very tricky, especially at the beginning to learn.
Yeah, I doing it without a mirror. You just took the words out of my mouth. It's one thing to do posing and look at yourself do it, but to pose and not see it. The other morning, we had to get up really early to catch a flight to Dallas from Florida, so I had to do my morning check-in pitch black. And my coach was basically holding like his phone and it would flash when he would take the picture. I had no idea what he was doing. And he looked at the picture. He was like, what are you doing? I was like, I don't know. I can't see. But you realistically, like, you need to learn how to do it without looking at yourself, because you're not going to look at yourself when you're on stage. You're looking at the crowd. You're looking at the judges. So yeah, the little things is what's going to make a huge difference in how you're going to be successful in the sport.
Yeah, definitely. So your trip to Florida and your trip to Texas, did you pick up anything? Did you learn anything? Did you feel like you gained anything, not just from doing shows, but just being around, or just like being around the sport in a different way, like from that experience?
Both experiences in general, they were They were my pro debuts. I pro debuted in Toronto last December, which was a small pro show. Kind of just put my foot in the water to see how, it was, because it was only a couple months after getting my pro card. So in my mind, these two shows, Texas and Tampa, were my pro debuts because they were huge shows. And I learned so much about myself, my body, what I needed to improve, and just the sport in general. um, I had so many opportunities while I was down in Florida, just, to meet people. I'm a little bit of a shy person when I'm around people. Like, I don't like people coming up to me in the gym. So I don't like going up to people in the gym, but I was a little bit, starstruck because there was so many faces that I look up to. And sometimes it's hard to fathom that, oh, like, I'm kind of on their level now, but I still don't want to go up to them and talk to them because, they're this person. They have no idea who I am. So I kind of learned to get out of my shell a little bit and just kind of, talk to everybody. It definitely helped, I guess, my social media presence. I try to keep up on social media, but, I have, unfortunately, a job, a child, and sometimes I fall behind. So, I'm not one of those people that are, 10,000, 20,000 followers on Instagram. So, but it was definitely a fantastic experience and I learned a lot.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same where I'm not a person who just like approaches people.
Yeah.
It's backwards for me. Like, I don't mind being approached, and I'll definitely like have a conversation with somebody, and I enjoy it. But to me, I'm the I don't know. I just don't like being that person that is like, especially to somebody who probably gets a lot too. It's like
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't.
that's the thing. Yeah. Like just example, like, I mean, I had met Chris Bumstead before, a couple years back, but, I'm training next to him and I know he's getting approached by every second person in the gym. And the last thing I want to do is approach him because I'm pretty sure he's sick of it. But I would have loved to just go over and say, hi, I'm from Canada too. But I didn't.
Yeah. And kind of having that Canadian connection, is there a sense of like Canadian bodybuilder pride or like Canadian
Oh my God,
bodybuilder
yes.
community?
Yes, definitely. Like, I think, I don't know if the competitors in the States do it, but if I look at, a lineup that I'm in and I'm like, oh, this person's from Canada, I'm gonna go and hang out with them. Right. So it was actually one of the first things I did. I was like, okay, who's competing? Who's from Canada? Okay, well, she's gonna be there. I'll go out, and hang out with her backstage. And so it's definitely a little bit of a camaraderie. I don't know if any other country is like that, but we're definitely like that in Canada.
I think for us, it's more of like a state to state thing.
Yeah.
That's how it feels, at least kind of around here. But is there like a certain is there a certain like I'm trying to think of an example. Some sports teams will have like that personality. Is there like a personality almost, or like this idea of a personality that Canadian bodybuilders like want to try to fit into? Like, is it gritty? Is it friendly? Is it, like, is there anything like that you feel like that exists?
Um, I guess just thinking about those that I know, I'm going to say friendly because I don't think there's anybody that I've met in the bodybuilding industry in Canada that is not friendly. And like, I've done, before getting my pro card, some national shows, and I'd be there by myself backstage and I wouldn't know anybody. And people would just approach you and start talking to you and make sure you're okay, and like, make sure you're not alone. So I've never had a negative experience when it comes to bodybuilding and bodybuilders, I should say. So I'm definitely going to say friendly.
And what is it like to kind of be out there on the road, as a individual athlete in this big world of bodybuilding? It's different because you don't have like a team of like 5, 10, 12, even in, football, 50, 80 players, like be there with you to back you up, to like help you go through this experience. Like, whenever you travel, especially to like a different country and to, different states within a country in a very short period of time, like, what is that like for you? What do you feel like you gain? Maybe not even from a bodybuilding perspective, but just from like a personal perspective. What do you think you gain from like traveling and seeing the kind of different parts of the world like that?
I don't think I would actually be able to be traveling with multiple people. I'm one of those people that when I travel, I almost have to be in my own zone. So like if you're in my space, it's just gonna almost like stress me out, right? So without having to screw up my cortisol levels, like I travel great by myself. And I think that's just kind of like my personality. Traveling the past 2-3 weeks for these shows, um, yeah, I guess I learned, I don't know. I can't say there was anything negative. I can't say like I was very prepared. So let's just say I'm so used to it that at this point that, the days that I traveled, I had enough food on my body for 3 subsequent days. I had, all my suits with me. So like I know what to do to travel and not be stressed because, I have everything organized. And again, that's just me and compartmentalizing everything and a little bit of an OCD, but
Yeah. And because of, how important just every single aspect of the human body is when it comes to bodybuilding and presenting yourself on stage, do you have like a some kind of, I'm trying to think of like a journal or like a checklist or like things like that you do? You kind of mentioned like I have all these things with me. I have, my food, I have my suits, I have all these different things in different kind of areas that I know where they are. Like speak a little bit more into like how you kind of manage that stress, manage all these different kind of things within your body because they do play such a big role on show day.
for me, I just make sure that, I have a really big vitamin regime. So I make sure that I take at bedtime, I take a Calm Plus, which is a great supplement. It's great to lower your cortisol levels, make sure you sleep. I make sure I get my sleep. That's one thing this prep for these 2 shows, my sleep has been phenomenal. And I think sleep is very underrated in this sport, or in general. I think, a lot of people are like, well, I can't, I don't feel really good. I can't lose weight. And, they're sleeping 2-3 hours a night. So sleep for me is key. And I guess I just have my routine every night. Like I'll train, I'll sauna, I'll come home, I'll eat, I'll get a Epsom salt bath and just literally just unwind. And it calms me. So I find what my body needs to relax mentally and physically. And I do it absolutely every day.
Yeah. Yeah, sleep is definitely one of the I don't want to say like the secrets, but in a lot of ways like people don't know. So I kind of guess it is like a little bit of a secret to like living a healthy life and being healthy and just all the research and things that have gone into different diseases that have come from getting not enough sleep or even in some cases too much sleep.
Or even not enough rest.
Yeah.
One thing I learned about my body this past prep is I forced myself to take rest days because unfortunately in the past, like it was one of those things like, oh, I don't need to take a rest day today. I'm just going to train. It's been 6 days, but I'm going to train again. And then all of a sudden I'm a couple weeks in and I still haven't taken a rest day. And I think, a lot of people underestimate how powerful a rest day is for your body and its growth.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that I made sure I did this prep is to actually take rest days.
Especially kind of like with the increased awareness of like cold exposure, heat exposure, different supplements now that are beneficial, and supplements being sometimes created things, sometimes natural things um, that we can take. But like there's so much more information and cool information really too if you kind of dig into like how we can recover faster. And I actually was
Yeah.
watching, can't remember if it was on like YouTube or whatever, but I watched this thing recently. It was like if sleep was a banned substance, like, like if it wasn't a natural thing, it would be a banned substance because it's so powerful when it comes to performance.
Oh, it is 100%. Before this past year, I'd be the person who'd stay up all night and probably be up and go to the gym at 4 o'clock, and this past prep, I would be in bed 8:30, 9 o'clock every night. I'd still
Yeah.
be up early to, because obviously I had cardio to do before work, but it was very seldom that I'd be up later than 9:30 because
Yeah.
I knew I needed that sleep. It was
Yeah.
more important to me than, you know, if my friends were going out anywhere, or if there was plans and the plans started at 8 o'clock, in my head, sorry, that's way too late for me to be considering a plan that starts at 8 o'clock, because, I need that rest. And it's important to me because bodybuilding is important to me. So it's something that I had to prioritize.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, not just what you do, but also like you just mentioned, what you don't do and what you don't put in your body, the alcohol or the, different kind of preservatives in food, or like different kind of whatever it is in food. There's just so many, and then you can transfer that over into like everyday life, like how come people are, developing cancer at a higher rate, or how come people are, seeing different hormone levels at different ages now. And you can just, all the things that you kind of learn about in bodybuilding, you're using them to a different advantage, but you can still apply those same principles and techniques into more of a just overall health focus when you stop bodybuilding. And you can really, um, I feel like there's going to be like a generation of bodybuilders eventually, and it might be the current generation, but like I feel like there's going to be this generation of bodybuilders who, you're seeing like an unmatched kind of health at later in life. And it's just, I think, a matter of time until we see kind of the advantages the education and things that we're learning, the information that we're getting, seeing how it plays into people that are, 20 and 30 now, and 60, 70 years, just the difference that there will be.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people underestimate the food that they put in their bodies, and the processed everything that's in a box. I mean, seldomly even use protein powder. Everything that I eat is all natural, just whole foods, and I think people underestimate that,
Yeah.
the power of just eating whole foods. And I know, there's always going to be the people that say, "Oh, well, it's expensive to eat healthy." I'm sorry, it's really expensive to eat fast food too.
Yeah.
So to me, like it's you got to weigh the pros and the cons. And to me, there's many more pros to eating, the whole healthy foods, because at the end of the day, I'm going to be healthier and I'm going to live longer.
Yeah.
And even just I know my body's accustomed to eating in that way now. So it's a little bit different for me and for those who are in this sport. But if I have anything to eat that's off or different from what I'm used to, I'm a couple days recovering from it. So I'm to the point where it's not worth it anymore. I have to really, really want to eat something different, or to, it has to be really important, like an event, or, a birthday, my son's birthday or something, to really eat off plan, because I will probably suffer for a couple days.
Yeah. It's crazy, like what the human body will get used to, whether you're
Yeah.
eating really poorly or really, really clean, what it can adapt to. And we know that it's really good at that, because people do kind of really treat their body really harshly for so long, and it can take it for so long. It's
Yeah.
amazing how much your body can take, and it's like begging for, it's begging for better, and
Yeah.
just like a new beginning. And I think some of it comes down to, education, and some of it just comes down to, making choices.
Yeah. Making the right choices.
Yeah. So kind of moving into the future, like looking into the future, what do you think, where do you see this bodybuilding journey that you're in? Where do you see it taking you?
Um, my goal is to eventually make it to the Olympia. This year is not going to happen, which, myself and my coach, we had the discussion. We know what we need to do to improve. I'm a really petite person. Even though in 6 months we ended up putting on 3 pounds over my last stage weight. So at 5 feet tall, 3 pounds is quite a lot. We've got to put on about another 10 pounds for the next show. So right now, we're going into an off season where we're just going to grow as much as we can. But overall goal would be to qualify for the Olympia and to make it to the Olympia. I'm not, in my 20s. I am slowly approaching 40. So I know that eventually my body will say, I don't want you to do this anymore. But for me, I will keep doing this until the day my body says you can't do this anymore. So I mean, I'm not planning on stopping until I really, really have to. because
Yeah.
it's just part of who I am. And eventually, you know, once I stop actually competing, you know, bodybuilding is still going to be a part of my life. I'm still going to train every day. It's still going to be in my regiment. I just might not compete.
Yeah. And I think it's cool to have something that in your life, because so many people don't, that you are passionate about and that you are willing to, you know, kind of give it all to something. And it doesn't necessarily have to be bodybuilding. It can be, you know, anything. Hopefully it is something that's, you know, constructive and not destructive, because some people fall into that trap. But like, you know, just the ability to have found something. And I think that's such a magical part about being a human, is like, you know, you go down these paths in life. Like when you first started to get interested in diet, and when you first started to get interested in fitness, you know, you probably didn't necessarily see yourself where you are today, but it's just a matter of like staying consistent and a matter of being dedicated to something. And,
Yeah.
you know, it'll take you places that you don't necessarily have to have all of it figured out. Just, you know, commit to something, I think.
Well, the biggest thing about this sport is like no one is ever perfect. You know, there's always something to work on. There's always something to strive for better. And I think that's why it's like it's a constant a goal. And you know, I'm very goal oriented as a person. So it allows me to always look forward and say, okay, well, we did this, we came in better, or you know, we came in bigger or whatever, but now we need to do this, this, and this. So there's always something to improve. There's always a new goal.
To kind of wrap things up, what advice would you have for women specifically who want to get into this sport and they want to be successful?
First thing, eat all your food. Find a coach that, you know, is willing to push you and not starve you, because I know a lot of, you know, girls when they get started, obviously in the bikini is usually where they get started. I mean, I see some girls and they're eating like 900 calories, and it scares me so much. I just like, don't be afraid to eat, you know, the healthy foods, and find someone who knows what they're doing. Do your research on what coach you're going to pick, and, you know, even talk to the clients that they have or have had, and see if that coach is the right fit for you. I mean, I've had people approach me and ask me, you know, what is your coach like? I'm like, well, you know what? Have a conversation with my coach and see if my coach is a good fit for you, because just because he's a good fit for me doesn't mean that you guys are going to work well together. Right. So there's so many different personalities out there and so many different techniques and ways of coaching and training that everybody kind of, you know, they work better with, you know, their own thing.
Yeah. Everybody kind of grooves a little bit different. Everybody's got their own
Exactly.
personality.
Right. So just because, you know, I train a certain way and me and my coach, we do a certain thing doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody. And that kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier about Instagram. You know, what works for one might not work for the other. So, you know, do your research, find a coach that, you know, meshes with you and you mesh with him or her, eat the food and really push yourself. I think the one thing that kills me when I see women in the gym is like they're training but they're just kind of going through the motions. You know, like push yourself, like make it hurt.
Really do appreciate, you know, you coming on and sharing a little bit about your story.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And if, before we head out, if you want to share your social medias and stuff like that, you can do that.
Yeah, my Instagram is Gagnon Ev, so GAGNONEVE _IFBB Pro. That's on Instagram.